Animal Crossing Amiibo Festival was released on November 20th, 2015, to what Metacritic describes as generally unfavorable reviews. Excerpts from these reviews include, "It's a blatant attempt to get you to buy more Amiibo, and it's not even a good one at that. Abysmal, one of the least interactive video games ever made by Nintendo. Don't buy this. Overall, Animal Crossing Amiibo Festival is an embarrassment of a game. I was already disappointed with Animal Crossing Happy Home Designer, the other AC spin-off title that released this fall, but Amiibo Festival far overshoots its predecessor in terrible design and gameplay." And this game was one of Nintendo's big holiday releases last year. It had an entire wave of new Amiibo just for it. And oops, that didn't happen. I'd also legit forgotten the existence of The Legend of Zelda Tri-Force Heroes, but it's good to see Devil's Third up there in the coveted Christmas selection as well. Damn, it has an even lower Metacritic score than Amiibo Festival does. What about Mario Tennis Ultra Smash? You can't screw up Mario Tennis, can you? It seems someone forgot to develop a game before publishing it, because Mario Tennis Ultra Smash lacks content so desperately that it looks like a mini-game from Mario Party. That is an ice-cold diss right there. No game survives a comparison to Mario Party with its credibility intact. If it wasn't for Xenoblade Chronicles X, which I've already reviewed, this would be one of the worst holiday lineups in video game history. To think that 2016's version of this image might be even worse. The Animal Crossing series, which before had only spun off into weird, pointless applications, suddenly saw 2 releases in 1 year, and they both suck. And the one that sucks the worst is on Wii U, and you need Amiibo to play it, and it costs £50? And 6 months later, I got it for £12.50, a purchase I regretted immediately upon playing it? How do you fall so far so quickly? Well, to answer those questions, let's go back to the beginning. Dobutsu no Mori, or Animal Forest, was released only in Japan for the Nintendo 64 on April 14th, 2001, making it one of the last games ever released for the system, mere months before the launch of the Nintendo GameCube. The game was a life sim, utilizing a clock built into the cartridge, originally intended to use the 64DD's internal chronometer, which was supposedly the primary reason for the game's entire development. The 64DD was a big stinky flop, of course, but that's a story for another time. Players could fish, catch bugs, interact with villagers, and do various other mundane tasks to earn money and assemble the ultimate collection of stuff. The game had too much potential to die on the N64, so it was quickly remade for the GameCube in December that same year as Animal Forest Plus, sporting a whole load of new content and now running on the GameCube's internal clock for full real-world parity. Nintendo of America got to work translating all of the text and Japanese-type stuff for the West, renaming the game Animal Crossing for its release on September 15th, 2002. Nintendo of Japan then took that version and updated it again for the Japan-only final mix known as Animal Forest E+, on June 27th, 2003, named so no doubt due to its enhanced use of the e-reader system, by which you could scan in collectible cards through a device connected to a Game Boy Advance connected to the GameCube. The Amiibo cards that the 3DS and Wii U games use are starting to look pretty sensible by comparison. Over 1 full year later, on September 24th, 2004, Animal Crossing was released in Europe, minus the e-reader stuff because that device never came out over here. Not that I cared, I had an imported American GameCube. I was playing games months before they came out in Europe. Once I later got a European one, I could still play my old games thanks to this Action Replay cheat disc, which I didn't really use outside of region unlocking. The test rooms in Wind Waker are very interesting to explore, revealing some neat behind-the-scenes development work. Super Smash Bros. Melee has some neat stuff hidden in the code as well, but we're getting way off track. Nintendo, however, were right on track and chugging away on the money train that was the Nintendo DS, releasing Animal Crossing Wild World in 2005, which allowed players to travel to the towns of other people across the globe via the Nintendo Wi-Fi connection. I still own my Nintendo Wi-Fi USB connector from a time before I had a wireless-capable router. And man, what a pathetic abomination this thing was. But between Wild World and Mario Kart DS, which was released around the same time, it seemed like Nintendo's online capabilities were finally starting to progress. By the time Animal Crossing Let's Go to the City, known as Animal Crossing City Folk in the USA, came out in late 2008, it was obvious that Nintendo's online capabilities were progressing slower than my sense of humor. The Wii title added the titular city, but that actually meant very little for the game's overall structure, which had remained basically unchanged since the first one. It was released alongside the Wii Speak, and was the only game developed by Nintendo to use the device. But when moved some shops around and voice chat are the big new additions to your game, you know you've stagnated. 4 years later, Animal Crossing New Leaf was released for the Nintendo 3DS. It was a smash hit, breathing new life into the series by fleshing out the game's core ideas. Practically every aspect of the game was expanded, with new mayoral duties, multiplayer mini-games, customizing clothing via QR codes, and a whole lot more. Simply put, it was the quintessential Animal Crossing package.
Here's a TV that looks like an apple.
And Nintendo were eager to celebrate their success. Isabelle, the mayor's assistant, appeared alongside the villager as downloadable content for Mario Kart 8, with a totally banging Animal Crossing themed racetrack, and the villager was included as a playable character in Super Smash Bros. For Wii U and 3DS, cementing the quirky life simulator as one of Nintendo's top franchises, alongside Street Fighter, Sonic the Hedgehog, and Final Fantasy. Nintendo smelled money. Their newfangled amiibo line of figures were making cash hand over fist, and Animal Crossing has a whole host of cute and cuddly critters to sell to kids at inflated prices. Why, each individual villager could have their own amiibo functional trading card. We'll release them in waves. Gotta catch 'em all, suckers. But you can't just have trading cards and figurines. You need a compatible video game to bring them to their full economic potential. Enter 2015's Animal Crossing Happy Home Designer for the 3DS and Animal Crossing Amiibo Festival for the Wii U. I haven't played Happy Home Designer, but from what I understand, it's just the house and town decoration part of Animal Crossing. You don't need to buy any of the furniture or go fishing or anything. A villager tells you what sort of themed room they want, and you make it happen. Amiibo cards call in that specific villager to give you a request in case you really want to design a certain character's house only? I must be missing something. The design options it does have seem more advanced than in previous games at least, so here's hoping this was an unfortunately monetized testing ground for future mainline titles in the series. But Animal Crossing Amiibo Festival is a whole new game. It's an Animal Crossing themed board game which requires Amiibo to function, although it does come with two, Isabelle and Digby to be precise. The detailing on the figures is quite good. Clean paintwork, cute pose. Not that you can tell from this low quality footage, but they're nice. The game also comes with 3 Amiibo cards, Goldie, Stitches, and Rosie. They're just 3 random villagers, but the bundled cards are always the same. When you first boot up the game and scan a compatible Amiibo, Goldie explains that Animal Crossing Amiibo Festival is a festival run for Animal Crossing characters by Animal Crossing characters, in those exact words. Yes, this dog is somehow aware that she is a fictional character in a video game spin-off. If only that bitch went turbo, I could have saved myself the pain of having played this bomb. Next, Goldie lays out the rules in the most vague way possible, and explains that a 4-player game takes around an hour and 15 minutes to complete. You can set a time limit, but the minimum is still 30 minutes, so let's buckle up for a long and engaging video board game. My turn is up first. To roll the die, you have to touch your amiibo to the gamepad. The Donkey Kong amiibo doesn't work. I rolled a 1, off to a good start. Today on stage I used some gags my mentor gave me. They got more laughs for me than they ever did for him, plus I got Piketty paid. +3 music, plus 888 bells, what? I guess I'm going to need to watch the computer play to figure this out. First tip, roll a 6, obviously. Second, choose the path to the left. Some clothes I accidentally put on display somehow became a huge hit on the street. It's too late to tell everyone it was just a big mistake. How random. He lost 2 music for that. The second CPU also rolls a 6 and goes left. I ran into Boy 2 and we were headed the same way. Traveling together is great. They both got 3. This game is so random. The third CPU rolls a 2 and also goes to the left. I did some singing in front of the station to make some pocket change and get some practice in. I got a few tips, plus 200 bells. Oh no. This game is just completely random. Here's how it works. The aim of the game is to be the player with the most happiness points, represented by the musical note, at the end of the month. Every 1,000 bells you have at the end will get converted to happiness points and added to your score. The only problem is you have so little impact on what happens that you might as well just flip coins for an hour and 15 minutes. You roll the die, you land on a space. That space is either good or bad. You see a little still scenario that could play out at some point in a game of actual Animal Crossing. You get your points, next player's turn. These little events are chosen totally at random, and they repeat themselves frequently. And this is the entire game, remember. All you do is roll dice and move around. There are gyroids in the corners of the board, and passing each one gets you a stamp. Collecting all 4 is worth 30 happiness points, which I guess is enough to convince the computer to purposely land on a negative space since it's closer to a gyroid. Sadly, this is about the extent to which the player can employ strategy or take an active role in the proceedings whatsoever. And even when I took a longer path around the map, I still got all 4 gyroids. Not that I had any control over it, of course, I just rolled the dice. For an hour and 15 minutes. Every so often, a noted Animal Crossing character shows up for a day and takes over a few of the spaces. If you land on one of those spaces, then some regurgitated Animal Crossing dialogue, and maybe, if you're lucky, a high-low guessing game happens, and you might walk away with a special card that allows you to move a certain number of spaces, or you might receive a few points whenever a certain number is rolled, or you might not get anything because which space you land on is determined entirely by luck, as are all other aspects of the game. Every Sunday, Joan shows up selling turnips. This functions much the same as it does in the mainline games, with turnip sale prices going up and down as you try to find a good place and time to sell them before they spoil at the end of the week. This is the only aspect of Amiibo Festival that feels like part of an Animal Crossing board game. Too bad it's just as random and pointless as the rest of it. There are general turnip trends, which the game selects, probably at random, determining the rough value of turnips across the entire board. Then later, the trend might change, drastically altering the prices of every space, making it a game of either cash out early and make a modest profit, or pray to the machine for it to set the prices far higher than the price you paid for them, and give you a card that lets you land directly on a good space. That's an opportunity that might only come around once per playthrough, and it's pretty much the only possible strategy on offer throughout the entire game, and it's completely dependent on luck. Is there nothing more to this pitiful existence? Must I spend my life tapping Amiibo and watching the same old, not funny, not cute, not interesting, inconsequential, no meaning, no thought cutscenes, and oh boy, Shrunk's in town again. He's my favourite of the 5 characters that might randomly show up. I love reading the exact same dialogue every time. Wow! A Move 2 card. I sure hope moving exactly 2 spaces is a good move at some point in the future. Oh no! Turnip prices are down, but I can still easily make a profit. I just landed on a regular space and grew a money tree, and now I have so much money the rest of the game doesn't matter. Last turn, I win, decimated the computer, and I didn't even do anything. Your total happiness points at the end are converted into tickets, which can be used to unlock mini-games and additional structures for the town. The board itself is the same every time you play, but unlocking new buildings adds a few new events to the tumbler, and maybe a new path to walk on. Although these new paths don't seem to get you to the gyroids any faster, so they're pretty much useless. Your happiness points also unlock new costumes and emotes for your amiibo characters, but you need so many points to level up, I'd rather die. One session of the board game spans 1 month, and there are special events that only occur on certain months. There's practically no variety though, since all the events boil down to the possibility of a player getting a few extra points or a special card. Take the fishing and bug catching contest for example. Where you land determines the quality of your catch. Can't reach a silver or gold space? Don't worry, because the only prize is a handful of happiness points, and you'll still probably get a few regardless. The unlocking of new features, the chosen month, the special events, the visitors, the stalk market, every aspect of the game is just a roll of the die. You don't play Animal Crossing Amiibo Festival. You just sit there picking up your amiibo, touching it to the gamepad, watching what happens, slowly rotting. This is one of the laziest excuses for a video board game imaginable. Every vapid reference to the Animal Crossing series is a shot in the face to anyone who ever enjoyed those games. You like Animal Crossing? Why not buy the Amiibo Festival multi-pack for only £112.99? It's got all your favourites in it. Buy the game, buy the amiibo, and roll the dice until you die, please. If there is a light at the end of this tunnel, it's that Amiibo Festival contains 8 mini-games in addition to the main board game. First up is Balloon Island, a game for 1 to 4 players. You simply hold one of your amiibo cards over the gamepad's NFC sensor, then move it away when you want your villager to drop. You get 3 goes, there's a multiplier for landing in the middle, there doesn't seem to be any difference in which card you use to play, and the game is over in seconds. Nothing more to say about it. Next is the Quiz Show, in which you answer questions related to various Animal Crossing things. It's less of a test of series trivia than it is an assortment of various fish and insect factoids that you could piece together by pure luck with a similar success rate. Some of the questions, like identifying the forgery in a group of paintings, are fun nods to the series, but most of them are as uninspired and unsatisfying as correctly identifying sarcophagi with Egypt, or guessing that the t-shirt with cow spots on it might be called the Cow Tee. It's a shame, since a series trivia quiz seems like a no-brainer, but Amiibo Festival is more concerned with taking children's money for amiibo cards and figures than providing any sort of enjoyable or nostalgic experience. Acorn Chase is a 1-player game in which you scan the 3 amiibo cards to move and turn. Grab all the acorns, avoid the rotten ones, and make it to the exit before the thing gets you. There are 3 rounds and it's stupefyingly simple, but trying to find a good position to reliably hold and scan 3 separate cards can lead to some fumbles. That is to say, the game is only challenging because it forces you to use a far more cumbersome and unreliable control system than necessary, and it's still much too easy and basic to bother playing more than once. Rossetti Bop is whack-a-mole mixed with rock, paper, scissors. Every so often, a Mr. Rossetti doll pops up and you scan the correct card to bop it, but only if your animal's specific gesture beats his. This is another one where having to constantly swap and scan different cards is a nuisance, but the actual rules of the game are so simple and uninteresting that there's no reason to care about the outcome whatsoever. I don't really understand Fruit Path. You scan an amiibo card and it moves your character forward a certain number of spaces. Sometimes you fall into a pit and sometimes you don't. I think it might have something to do with how much you're carrying, but I'm not sure, and it doesn't matter anyway. All you can do is scan the card and see whether or not you get good RNG. They were really scraping the bottom of the barrel for minigames to include at this point. I mean, this one is just nothing. The minigames before were super basic and dumb, but I could at least tell what impact my actions were supposed to have. The next two games, Mystery Campers and Amiibo Card Battle, I can't play because they require 6 amiibo cards and the game only came bundled with 3. Judging from their tutorial screens, however, they both seem to be as brainless as the rest, perhaps even more so. In Mystery Campers, you try to guess who's hiding in each tent. In Amiibo Card Battle, you pick the best card. I'm actually sort of glad I didn't have to endure playing these mini-games, but that leaves us with only one left. I did save the best for last, but that's really not saying much. Desert Island Escape is the most involved of all the games, including the main board game. The objective is to use your 3 amiibo card characters to find 4 pieces needed to build a raft and escape the island, while also contending with pitfalls, wild animals, and a shortage of food. Encounters are resolved by a roulette wheel, which I think you can manipulate with proper timing? I never fully got the hang of it, and the game blatantly fudges the rolls at times, but it mostly seemed like I was in control. Either way, gathering materials to construct tools can make certain tasks easier to succeed, and rare silver and golden tools guarantee success until they break. There are 30 levels across 3 difficulty settings, and while the exact positions of each item change from run to run, the general locations of the parts you need are the same, so you can enjoy a light strategy as you try to make it to the far corners of the island without running out of food or getting blocked by creepy crawlies. Because even in the world of Animal Crossing, snakes and spiders are just mindless creatures that need dying. The game even does a good job of making each amiibo card feel unique. Every animal has a favorite fruit, a certain number of spaces they can see and move, and a special ability. Goldie can only move 3 spaces at a time, but will reveal any useful items nearby. Stitches and Rosie can move 4 spaces, so you want to send in Goldie to scout out any good items and then have the other 2 move in to clean up. Stitches can gather honey without a net, and Rosie can fish without a rod. They'll even automatically move to one of those spaces if they're within reach, so you can extend their movement beyond the normal amount if you play smart or get lucky. Desert Island Escape is a very simple game, but it's by far and away the most interesting and engaging thing that Amiibo Festival has to offer. Using the same 3 cards and the same basic strategy across all 30 levels did get tiresome quickly, but if there was a little more diversity in the content of each island, and if the game came with a few more amiibo cards to pick and choose depending on the situation, then Desert Island Escape could have been a decent title. Make it free to play, have it pop up on the Wii U suddenly, give a little something for people to do with their Animal Crossing amiibo card collection. But no. Instead, it's bundled in with Amiibo Festival for £50, alongside some of the laziest, least involving, most insulting mini-games ever made. And Animal Crossing Amiibo Festival is one of the laziest, least involving, and most insulting games ever made. From the unbearably slow progression of turns, the near complete lack of player agency, the pitiful mini-games that wouldn't even make it onto a Mario Party loading screen. Everything about the game stinks with a spiteful and cynical pulling on the udders of the Amiibo and Animal Crossing cash cows. With the Wii U having essentially run out of games, and any whiff of the NX still a year away, Nintendo unashamedly dropped trow and squirted out one of their worst games ever. And now, Isabelle and Digby sit on my desk as a reminder that nothing is sacred, and over a decade-long legacy of enjoyment and nostalgia means nothing to the corporations who will exploit your happiness in any way they can if it convinces you to buy their crappy plastic figures. Now, ceramic figures, those you can trust.